equipment. But because of that storage space up there, there's a bunch of guitar cases and like drums and like all kinds of stuff up there that if I don't need it every day, it's just, you know, I have to crawl up there to get it. But it made this space possible, which is great.
Yeah, you have all the space on the lower part. I mean, I can see it's pretty big and pretty wide.
Yeah, it works out. Like I said, most important thing is the quiet and no neighbors. I mean, I can hear people around in the neighborhood, but no, I don't share walls with anybody, and that's particularly nice.
Okay. Who else is here? I can't seem to see. I mean, I'm learning to use my iPad, so I don't know how.
Oh yeah, you should be able to switch to gallery view and then see.
Oh, okay, I found the button.
Yeah, so Jeremy, I turn on the recording, also I turn on the Go Live Facebook.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
David, you asked fantastic question. I scared him away.
Are you in Riverside, Robert, or somewhere else?
I'm in Fremont, California.
Oh, okay.
About 50 miles away from San Francisco. Next, pretty much not too far from Berkeley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a suburb. It's a bedroom city suburb. Here comes Gilbert.
Yeah, I turned the spotlight on Gilbert too. Yeah.
Great.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello.
Amitabha.
Amitabha. Okay. What time we have? Almost time, right?
Almost time. 1 minute, technically.
Yeah, we have a lot to cover tonight. Let's see. I'm trying to not have any of the batteries die out, but we'll see how that goes. That's a good sound. Okay.
So Jeremy, let me know when to show the 4 grade bar, okay?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
you can do it right before we begin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's 6. Gilbert, are you ready, or do you need a few more?
We're ready to go.
Okay.
Okay. Well, good evening to you all. This is the last in this series on the Chan, and we'll start with bowing and the 4 great vows. Bow. The 4 great vows. I vow to deliver innumerable sentient beings. I vow to cut off endless vexations. I vow to master limitless approaches to Dharma. I vow to attain supreme Buddhahood. Okay, we will start. It's difficult because there's so much to talk about Chan. That is something that we can go on for quite a long time on in terms of the subject and different aspects of the subject. I wanted to start out with something that has been of a great interest to me for quite a while, and that's why I always deferring to Anipan, is the art history of Buddhism and the iconography of it, and the idea of what they call the aniconic traditions of the Buddhist art. And aniconic is that which represents the Buddha. And it's what's very interesting about this is that how do we represent the Buddha? In the Diamond Sutra, it says the Buddha cannot be known by his 32 marks. And yet we have representations of the Buddha. And then we have representations of different bodhisattvas, Wei To, Guanggong, different from the Junti practice, the 1,000-hand bodhisattva or 1,000-arm bodhisattva. All of these are representations of artists of their ideation of what is in the sutras and how the Buddha appears. And one of the very first statues of the Buddha I'd like to show you, and this comes in around the same age of the time in which we're talking about, and at least this one is from dated 746 CE, and this is Amitabha Buddha. And so I will show you a picture of that. See if I can get a good, okay, so there you go. And if you see down below here, there's an inscription on this particular Amitabha Buddha statue. A little bit worse for wear, but nevertheless, it's a very important one. And it has at the bottom an inscription that's very, very important. Do you recognize this one? Do you recognize?
Not this particular one, but it's a Tang Dynasty one, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what's interesting is in the inscription, it says, as a matter of general principle, while the highest truth is devoid of any image, without images, there would be nothing to make visible its being the truth. So the Buddha statue stands for the fact that this is the truth, this absolute truth is without marks, without any kind of a representation, yet nevertheless, the statue is depicted. And so it continues on and says, and while the highest principle is devoid of all words, how without words would its being the principle be made known? And this is Chan. This comes from the classical period of Chan. And this is saying, here is the statue of the Buddha. Do not know it by the 32 marks. This is our ideation of the Buddha, but don't find them in the statue. But without these kinds of representations, how would we be able to practice? And this is at the spirit of Chan. It's very, very important. And it's right there, right in the artwork itself, where it's depicting this kind of a doctrinal approach in which it's saying beyond words and phrases. And from the very, very beginning time periods, everything in this way is passed on. And as you begin to see this, it's very interesting because in this poem, The Precious Mirror of Samadhi, and this comes around the time of the early 9th century. And this poem actually is a poem that was a kind of almost not verbatim, but quite very close to it, to another poem that was out. And this is from the Mo Chao school, but it's very interesting how it starts, because it says, it is this very Dharma the Buddhas and the patriarchs secretly transmitted. This opening is an esoteric opening. It's an invitation, but if you don't get it, you don't get it. So because it says it is this very Dharma, and you go, wait a second, you just started. What Dharma are you talking about? Where's the Dharma that you're talking about? And it's this one that's secretly transmitted. In this poem, it's presupposed one has already been able to see the self-nature of mind, and that this was transmitted from the teacher to the student. And so the teacher to the student is communicating in a non-verbal way. And it's this very Dharma that the teacher is saying that was secretly transmitted. It's not so much secret like, quiet, I'm only going to tell you. It's secretly transmitted because it's in the code of Chan. It's in the code where we look at whatever is there. And if we look at the picture of Amitabha, it's transmitted in the picture as well. We cannot see that. And that's why they're saying, don't hold on to this statue as being the representation of Buddha. We understand it in this way, but don't hold on to it as the features. Don't create an idol out of it. Create a practice point from that. And so it is this very aspect of the practice that is transmitted. So then as we begin to look at that, then the next part is, now that you have it, protect it well. You go, what? Did I get it? If you ask, then you don't have it. But if you have it, then just protect it. And we'll come back to that. That's a very familiar refrain in the Chan school. And after that, it talks about the feeling of the mind that has seen its self-nature, like an egret, like a silver bowl full of snow, or an egret hidden against a bright moon. They are similar, but not identical. When mingled, their difference can be recognized. It's showing that the mind is active. It's not dead. So when we meditate, there is this illumination aspect of the practice. This is very, very important part, besides the samadhi of meditating and utilizing the samantha concentration to get there. There must be this illumination. This illumination is the profound wisdom that is manifesting, that's there. It's clear. It's right there. We just can't see it because we muddle it up with too much thought. But when the thought is not there, then the mind appears perfectly clear, like the moon on a full moon on a clear night. It's there. And as we look at things that where the moon reflects upon, let's say, a lake, we're clear that this is a reflection. We're clear that this reflection is just not other than the reflection of the mind. This is why they use this kind of analogy of the moon to represent the mind of Chan. So it's something that I wish I could continue on with any part of what I'm going to teach you today. But what I'm doing is kind of taking you through a whirlwind of a journey of Chan. And later on, we'll come back and we'll start at this point and move forward. But I wanted to touch upon certain things in terms of the Chan school. We understand that the Chan school is one that follows the single vehicle, ekayana, and we understand that it is very much cultivates wisdom to the point of Anyatara Samyak Sambodhi, this highest unexcelled wisdom, and that wisdom produces compassion, and that this compassion is utilized by bodhisattvas, which have become now a new vehicle versus a solitary vehicle of getting out of samsara. One now concentrates on getting everyone out. This is the Mahayana vehicle, the higher vehicle or the supreme vehicle to utilize, so that we can understand that this is just simply the function of mind. You hear this in terms of words, but I hope that in the future, you're going to be able to come to a realization that precisely it's just this mind, just this manner in which we practice that gets us there. We also talk in Chan about a direct experience, whether we're in the Mo Chao school, the silent illumination school of just sitting, or the Ling Chi school of using goans and hua tos. We just have a direct experience to mind itself, rather than trying to delve into the understanding of things. The true and proper understanding is that there isn't anything conceptual to understand. It is when one comes to the realization of that there is nothing to learn, then that at that point, then you're at the doors of Chan. Before that point, you're just kind of like lingering around, hoping to gain entrance, but you are searching for the ticket and you just can't seem to find it anywhere.
We have a quick question from Michelle, if I can interrupt you for a second, about the I forget how to pronounce these, even though you just said them. The Gong'an and the Huato.
Huato.
Thank you. Yeah, the question was for the second one for Gong'an, what is it in Chinese? What does it mean?
The goan is just a question, a public question of, or a story, you could say, that has some kind of a meaning behind it. So in the earlier days in the classical period, there was a development of goans, Koan, and these were stories that one would delve into the meaning of it. A kind of a classical one is where someone was traveling to this one temple and came upon this master, and the master asked him where he came, what was he doing there, and he just said, "Go have a cup of tea." And what is the meaning of this? Go have a cup of tea. He went all this way just to have the master tell him, "Go have a cup of tea." So it doesn't give itself up to any kind of a simple answer. And what it does is it requires one to contemplate versus cogitate, to think about, rather than think about it, is to contemplate what this means. This was eventually morphed into a more effective way of practicing, which is the hua to. And the hua to, the meaning of the hua to is before the word. So one is constantly returning their attention before the question. Right now, the more popular one in the DDMBA is what is Wu? What is emptiness? And although it could be, what is my original face before I was born? Who's dragging this corpse around? Who is reciting the Buddha's name? Are very, very popular and very effective ones where we bring up, although they in and of themselves, and in the attempt to try to work through them in an intellectual or conceptual way, is meaningless. The goans have been used quite a bit in Japan and other practices. but and people are tested on it by their master, and then they pass to Huang Po, or excuse me, I'll go on, and then they give it another one. I do not believe that this is a very effective practice because it's goal oriented in a way that still remains in samsara. And to me, I have my own classical saying that it is probably easier to pass a kidney stone than to pass a koan, in terms of really looking into something and seeing it and in terms of the self nature of the mind. Even the practice or the study of the scriptures and the treatises, the mind can become very, very stable in the same way as one is working with silent illumination, sitting or using a Huang Po. Okay, so this is where we're at in terms of talking about the Ling Chi school and the silent illumination school, the known as Soto or Mo Chao, just sitting. In its classical period, the proponents of Ling Chi school was Da Hui, Dahui, and Hongzhi was for the silent illumination school. And there was criticism on both sides of the fence on that one as to which was the proper practice. Historically, it's been that they were setting the two of them like arch enemies and fighting, but that was really not the case. Historically, they were contemporaries. They just had different ways of practicing, but nevertheless, they respected each other's schools. And when we see this in terms of that, Da Hui was critical of silent illumination in terms of that it was so passive that it was not producing any illumination. And on the other side, Hongzhi was saying, well, you're not really exploring the true practice. You're just going in this endless loop of recitation of what is wu, what is wu, what is emptiness, what is emptiness. But in their practice, both methods were very effective, and those are the methods that Master Shen Yang has brought forth and kept going because they're both effective ways of practicing. One is passive, which is illumination, but not so passive in its actual utilization because there has to be illumination. The difficult part with that is that how do we come up with what is illuminating the mind? We cannot come up with it from the cogitation side or the consciousness side. We have to see where this consciousness is arising. That is the illumination. And in an instant, we turn the mind's eye inward. And so turning the mind's eye inward, then we're able to see what is appearing within mind itself. And all of a sudden, consciousness is seen as something that's arising, not something that's there permanently. And so we no longer mistake that to be our fundamental essence. So the during the classical period in the Song Dynasty, the masters that came about at that time, one of them was Matsu, and he established a school called Hongzhou School, Hongzhou, Hongzhou. And his school was one that was emphasizing the ordinary mind, and that this mind, this very mind, is the Buddha. Now, this is very, very important because as one practices, and begins to get realizations, it is just this way that we recognize that it is just this ordinary mind, just this mind that we're using right now. And rather than something fantastical that's there as some kind of a realization, it is not in that way. It is just simply this mundane mind that we use. This mind that we're using just in this moment is not other than the Buddha mind. And so this was very, very important. His major disciple was Bai Song, and Bai Song Hui, excuse me, and he was from 720 to 814. Matsu was 709 to 788. And one of my favorite stories about Matsu and Baizong is that Matsu took Baizong to a lake. And when he took him to the lake, they saw a bunch of ducks on the that were swimming in the lake. All of a sudden, the ducks started flying by. Quack, 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 quack. And Matsu asked Baizong a question. Now, Baizong interpreted this to be just an ordinary question, but Matsu was testing him. And he said, "Where did the ducks go?" And Baizong was going to go and point in the direction that the ducks went. But at that very moment, before he could even open his mouth, Matsu grabbed him by the nose and twisted it very, very hard. It must have been a very great twist, because in that moment, Baizong became enlightened. And he was shocked by the action, but the immediacy was like a thunderclap to him. And he was able to grasp the secret meaning or the esoteric meaning of what Matsu was saying. Indeed, where did the ducks go to? Where could they go to? They went to the other side of the pond, or could they even leave mind at all? No, because it's the ekayana that everything is mind. So the ducks could not go anywhere. This was just an illusion, a fabrication. But wherever they went to, mind was certainly there. So there was no direction where they could go. This is just a little bit of a kind of give you an idea, but it's certainly not going to give you the all of the answers to the final exam. So after that, then we get to Huang Po, Shi Yun. That's around 787 to around 850 as the new master. Now, along the lines here, there's other masters that are here, but these are the main ones, and the ones that are producing quite a bit of treatises and information that people can follow. And so this is an important part of this till we get down to Master Ling Chi. And Master Ling Chi, Yi Xuan, and forgive my pronunciation, and he passed away in 866, but he was actually became enlightened while discussing the Buddha Dharma. As one begins to discuss the Buddha Dharma, you will find that in order to do so, one has to put down the self. One has to put down cogitation, thinking. We trust that the mind will be able to deliver words to the mouth, but we do not think in a way in which we look at it and we say that this is us thinking. We are contemplating, and even as we're speaking or we're studying, we're contemplating what we're studying. We're not just reading it, we're really working it. And so he was actually able to get to the point where he had gained this insight into the self nature of mind. We're going to stop with Master Ling Chi tonight, and we're just going to concentrate on him because he represents a culmination from the first patriarch of Bodhidharma all the way through the sixth patriarch to Hui Ning, all the way through all of these different masters, and is representing in the classical time Chan. And reading his works, one can get a very good grasp of what Chan is and how to practice Chan. So today we're going to be reading from what's called, and I'll show it to you, the Zen teachings of Master Ling Chi. And you can get this online. I really highly recommend that you read this, and you don't just read it once. If reading it 20 times is not even enough, and I've easily read it more than that, the words I'm going to tell you about. And each time when I read it, I find even more, because my scholastics in terms of understanding the doctrine and the history and what's there is improving. So I can see more of what he's telling you, but it is his kind of in your face approach that is very, very important in terms of how he does it. So let's get into this. And everything you need to know about Chan is right here in the Zen teachings of Master Ling Chi. So he starts this and says, the master instructed the group, saying, those who study the Dharma of the Buddhas these days should approach it with the true and proper understanding. Again, this is where we have this, but this, oh, by the way, somebody wanted to see this again. Let me see if I can get back. Zen teachings of Master Ling Chi. And if you go to a Buddhist library, this is where I got that from. It's called abuddhistlibrary.com. This true and proper understanding is the right view. What is the right view? The right view is how mind works. And some of you who know me well know that I have a group, a forum called Mind Work. I'm not interested in person work or becoming a good person in this lifetime. I'm interested in taking people to turn the mind's eye inward so that they can cultivate an investigation of mind itself. And so that this is the important aspect in terms of this, is that we need to have this investigation. This investigation leads to the right view, how mind works. And we say, how does mind work? What is the most important aspect of how mind works? Anybody know? Come on. There's only like 2 or 3 things you could possibly say that how mind works. How does mind work? If you had like a
Paticca Samappada.
Pratika Samapada. Okay, you've only heard it from me how many times now? 50,000 times. Pratika Samapada. Causes and conditions never fail. We see that everywhere. Why do we see it everywhere? Because that's mind. That's the way that mind works. Pratika Samapada. And so we continue on. And he says, if you understand this a true and correct understanding, you won't be affected by considerations of birth and death. You'll be free to go or stay as you please. And you don't have to strive for benefits. They'll come to you. Not bad. It's like a pretty good package. Somebody's telling you, hey, you want to come and work with us? Look, you're going to get this. You know, you can, you just have to work, and all these benefits will come to you. We don't have to worry about getting a raise. You want the raise, you get the raise. It's not bad. So this is all you have to do, is you have to have this true and proper understanding. You have to practice sincerely. And it works. Why? Pratika Samapada. So he says, followers of the way, the outstanding teachers from times past have their way of drawing people out. What I want to impress upon you is that you mustn't be led astray by others. If you want to use this thing, then use it. And have no doubts or hesitations. So if you want to use it, what's he talking about? You want to use it, your mind. Use it. But you use it in the right way. You know, some of you, you have a pen and you're using it in the wrong way. You're using the other side. You don't know what the marks are that are happening on this side because you're using it in the wrong way. When you turn the mind's eye inward, it turns and it's perfect. Then we know precisely what we're doing. If we want to make a circle, we make a circle. We want to make a square, we make a square. We're clear about it. It doesn't just magically appear there. We know exactly why it's appearing there. Okay. Says, but if you can just stop this mind that goes rushing around from moment to moment, looking for something, then you'll be no different than the patriarchs and the Buddhists. Not bad. Do you want to know the patriarchs and the Buddhists? So the people that are here, do you want to know the patriarchs and the Buddhists? Pay attention, because Ling Chi is going to tell you about that right now. They're none other than the people who are standing in front of me listening to this lecture on the Dharma. The students don't have enough faith in themselves, and so they go rushing around looking for something outside of themselves. But even if they get something, it'll be just words and phrases, pretty appearances. They'll never get to the living thought of the Buddhas or the patriarchs. So again, he's talking about appearances and saying these are appearances, and why? Because from all of the sutras where Manjusri is talking about that these appearances have no fundamental essence to them. They're just illusions. They're just appearing. And so he's telling you all of this stuff is conceptual. This is not where you should look if you want to practice. And he says, make no mistake, you followers of Chan, if you don't find it in this life, then for 1,000 kalpas, you'll be born again and again in the threefold world of desire, form, and no form. You'll be lured off to what you think are favorable environments, only to be born in the belly of a donkey or a cow. Now, what he's referring to here is in the bardo, as you're going through the bardo is an in-between time between lives, that there's still something there, an essence of something, not necessarily you, because you have no longer cease to exist in terms of corporal form. And you don't exist in terms of a soul. But there's still manifestations of habitual patterns that are there. And in that bardo period, you will be drawn towards the light. And if you feel very, very comfortable with it, you'll keep moving towards it. If it's too bright, such as the brightness of the illumination of the mind, you'll push away from that. That's too much for you to handle. Until you find a nice, comfortable place, a warm stable, and you go, and it's very, very nice. And after a while, you'll be there, and you'll be mooing at the moon, but not like a Japanese Zen. You'll be mooing because you're a cow. And that's where you ended up at. Causes and conditions never fail. So he's warning you, don't end up like a donkey or a cow. You have to practice diligently. You have a human form in this lifetime. Use it. Don't blow it. Followers of the way, as I look at it, with no difference from we're no different than Shakyamuni. In all our various activities each day, is there anything that we lack? Whatever we do we lack anything? No, we just make bad choices. So when we make bad choices, it doesn't work. But we have the Buddha mind. We just simply have to utilize wisdom, cultivate wisdom. Wisdom begets wisdom. The wonderful light of the six faculties has never for a moment ceased to shine. If you could just look at it this way, then you'd be able to be the kind of person who has nothing to do for the rest of their life. Wow. You could retire. Have you heard of the man of the Tao who has nothing to do? And this is the way one of the Chan poems starts. As Shifu would say, busy doing nothing. So all the time you're awake, you're busy doing nothing. Not bad. Things get done that way. Fellow believers, there's no safety in this threefold world. It is like a burning house. This is no place for you to linger long. The deadly demon of impermanence will be upon you in an instant, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, old or young. If you want to be no different than the Buddhas and the patriarchs, then never look for something outside of yourself. The clean, pure light in a moment of your mind, this is the essence body of the Buddha lodged in you. So this essence, we've talked about this essence and the mind essence. And so he's talking about this pure, clean light in a moment of your mind, that this is the essence body. What does the essence mean? So pay attention, because I'm going to ask you a question after I finish this part. The undifferentiated light in the moment of your mind, this is the bliss body of the Buddha lodged in you. The undiscriminating light in the moment of your mind, so this is undiscriminating light in the moment of your mind. This is the transformation body of the Buddha lodged in you. What is he talking about, these three bodies? Anybody know? At least take a guess at it. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
I guess the Dharma Kaya would represent mind in its absolute form. And the Sambhana Kaya would be, I guess, the bliss from the apprehension of that in some sense, the commingling of that. And then Nirmanakaya is like Buddha's bodily form. It's the bodily forms that can change. That's my understanding.
I'm sure you all knew that answer, right? Very good. Eric, you've been studying for me for quite a while now, but
Well, you
good
punished
job.
me, so I did.
Yeah. So this is precisely what he's talking about in terms of this is the Dharmakaya, the mind ground, the Sambhakaya, and the Nirmanakaya that he's talking about, and saying these are all there. And then he says, then he kind of pulls the rug out, because then he says that these three types of bodies are you, the person who stands before me now listening to this lecture. And simply because you do not rush around seeking anything outside yourselves, you can command these fine faculties. So he's saying these aspects of the Buddha mind, they're at for you to use. According to the expounders of the sutras and the treatises, the threefold body is to be taken as some kind of an ultimate goal. So now he's kind of pecking at the scholars and saying this threefold body that we want to take it as an ultimate goal. At this point in time, there's the dawning of the Tibetan practice as well, and there was a very strong emphasis on this threefold body. And and then the schools that followed that, which then naturally was embraced by the Tibetans. And so he's saying that this is like, they're looking at it as if this is some kind of an ultimate goal. But as I see it, it's not so. This threefold body is but mere names. Boom, again, he comes in with the wisdom and saying that this is just appearances. Or there are three types of dependencies. You want to depend on these. And so if you depend on them, then that's a crutch. One man of early times said, the body depends on doctrine for its definition, and the land is discussed in terms of reality. Now, he's kind of saying, okay, this is where the body depends on this definition, the land is discussed in terms of reality. Who is he referring to here, or what? Anybody have an idea? And when he's talking about discussed in terms of reality, he's talking about at this point Abhidharma and the idea of reality. And so he's now taking a peck at them as well. And he says, this body of the Dharma realm or reality, this land of the Dharma realm, we can see clearly are no more than flickering lights. And I absolutely love that analogy of flickering lights. It's like a candle that you have. And oftentimes when you see the candle, it's lit, but you know it's finite. Whether it's a wax candle or an electronic candle, it's gonna go out sooner or later. It's just flickering lights. It's an illusion. And so now he brings it back and says, okay, we have all of these. I am not negating that these are there, and they're in the essence of mind, but we don't hold on to it. We let that go. We touch bases with it in terms of the Dharmakaya, Sambhakaya, Nirmanakaya, but we leave it all. There's no reality there. All it does is it points to the very essence of the mind, which is Ekayana, the single vehicle, which is just simply mind itself. If everything is mind, there's nothing to be called separate from that. And we certainly aren't going to say that all of these features of mind are separate from mind itself or some kind of a concept. It is just how the mind works. Followers of the way, you should realize that the person who manipulates these flickering lights is the source of the Buddhas. the home that all followers of the way should return to. Your physical body is made up of the 4 great elements, doesn't know how to teach the Dharma. This part is very, very important. It seems very simple, in some ways maybe stupid, but the stupidity is our own ignorance. So please pay attention to what he's saying here, because it's very, very critical. So he's saying this body here, it doesn't know how to preach the Dharma or listen to the Dharma. Your spleen, stomach, liver, gallbladder, they don't know how to listen to the Dharma. You hold your spleen up. Tell me. Tell me something about the Dharma. What's it going to say to you? Just a gurgly noise. It doesn't know anything more than just keeping the body alive and filtering out some bad things that pass through it. But that's all. It doesn't know that. Even your brain. Even your brain doesn't know. It stores information. Part of it is autonomic, where it breathes and does all different functions for us, moves waste through our system, cleanses the blood. And then we have the thinking aspect of the brain. But really, when the last breath is taken, ask the brain to teach you the Dharma. Gilbert, come back. Gilbert, come back. Where's he going to hear it? Everything's all disconnected at that point. He's looking at it and telling you, come on, look at this. Look with common sense. This is Chan. This is mundane. This is the way it is.
Okay.
Okay. So then he says, empty spaces don't know how to preach the Dharma or listen to the Dharma. What is it then that knows how to preach the Dharma or listen to the Dharma? It is you, who are right here before my eyes. This lone brightness without fixed shape or form, this is what knows how to preach the Dharma and listen to the Dharma. If you can't see it in this way, if you can see it in this way, excuse me, you'll be no different than the patriarchs and the Buddhas. But never at any time let go of even this for a moment. Everything that meets your eyes is this. But when feelings arise, wisdom is blocked. When thoughts waver, reality departs. Therefore, you keep being reborn again and again. And in the threefold world and undergoing all sorts of misery, always suffering. But as I see it, there is none of you are incapable of this profound understanding. None of you incapable of emancipation, of liberation. Followers of the way. This thing called mind has no fixed form. It penetrates in all 10 directions. In the eye, we call it sight. In the ear, we call it hearing. In the nose, it detects odors. In the mouth, it speaks discourse. In the hand, it grasps. In the feet, it runs along. Basically, it is a single bright essence. But it divides itself into these 6 functions. And because of the single mind has no fixed form, it is everywhere in a state of emancipation. So the mind that we actually use, that we limit here in the samsaric world, is infinite. It is absolutely wondrous. It is capable of knowing something that's happening 500,000 light years away and beyond. 500,000 years ago, 500,000 years in the future. All is there in the single present moment, the single bright essence of mind. He didn't say that part. I said that part, just to be clear about that. Why do I tell you this? Because you followers of the way seem incapable of stopping the mind that goes rushing around everywhere looking for something. So you get caught up in those idle devices of the men of old, looking for a reality. Someone asked, what is the Buddha devil? The master said, if you have any doubts in your mind for an instant, that is the Buddha devil. You can understand the 10,000 phenomena, but if you can understand the 10,000 phenomena were never born, that the mind is like a conjurer's trick, then not one speck of dust, not one phenomena will exist. So this idea of the conjurer's trick is very interesting because it goes back to a reference from the Yogacara school talking about the function of the eighth consciousness, and that if one sees that the five consciousness are fundamentally empty and the sixth consciousness is empty, then the seventh consciousness, which is kind of formulates actions based on what it's interacting with, has no longer any function of its own, because that function was taken away by the fact that everything is fundamentally empty. It's a conjurer's trick. At that point, then, it is said that the conjurer who created the tiger, the phenomena around him, the samsaric world, is then, because it has no fundamental purpose, is devoured by the tiger. And so the mind is clear. When we see things in this way, then we see that all of this is just an illusion, a phantasm, a dream. So we continue on. As I see it, there's no Buddha, no living beings, no long ago, no now. If you want to get it, you've already got it. It's not something that requires time. And again, here he's referring to the Subitism, which Hui Ning was a proponent of the sudden enlightenment. He says it doesn't need time. It's not like you put a cake in the oven and you have to wait X amount of time for it to rise and be done. It happens naturally in accordance with causes and conditions. There's no religious practice, no enlightenment, no getting anything, no missing out on anything, and no time is there any Dharma than this. If anyone claims there's a Dharma superior to this, I must say it must be a dream or a phantom. All I have to say to you is simply this: followers of the way, this lone brightness before my eyes now is a person plainly listening to me. This person is unimpeded. At any point, penetrates in the 10 directions, free to do as he pleases in the threefold world. No matter what the environment he may encounter with its peculiarities and differences, he cannot be swayed or pulled awry. In the space of an instant, he makes his way into the Dharma realm. If he meets a Buddha, he preaches to the Buddha. If he meets an Arhat, he preaches to an Arhat. If he meets a patriarch, he preaches to a patriarch. If he meets a hungry ghost, he preaches to a hungry ghost. He goes everywhere, wandering through the many lands, teaching and converting living beings, yet never becomes separated from his single thought, from his mind, his original mind. Every place for him is clean and pure. His light pierces in the 10 directions. The 10,000 phenomena are a single thusness. Everything is pure. We understand that all of what appears to be profane in this world is just a manifestation of a dream. If you were in a dream and you felt like you were in a pool of poop, when you woke up, would you have poop all over you? Would you smell like poop? No, because you were dreaming that. The difference is that if someone is here and they're dreaming and they're in the pool of poop, they know that this poop is not real. It's just a dream. So to them, they cannot be affected by those kinds of manifestations or appearances in mind. They're just illusions. Sounds good. Doesn't that make more sense than what you're enduring and suffering now? Followers of the way, the really first-rate person knows right now, from the first, there's never been anything that needed to be doing. It's because you don't have enough faith that you rush around moment to moment looking for something. You throw away your head and then look for your head. This very head that you're using, this very mind that you're using to look for things is the Buddha mind. Where are you going to look for it? No matter where you look, how could you encounter it? It's thus. You are like a bodhisattva of perfect and immediate enlightenment who manifests his body in the Dharma realm, but who in the midst of the Pure Land still hates the state of the common mortal and prays to become a sage. People like that have yet to forget about choices. Their minds are still occupied with thoughts of purity and impurity. But the Chan school doesn't see things in that way. What counts is this present moment. It is why when we practice and we sit to meditate, I always tell you, keep your mind in the present moment. Contemplate this present moment. There's nothing that requires a lot of time. Everything I say to you is for this moment only. Medicine to cure the disease. Ultimately, it has no reality. If you can see things in this way, you will be true people who have left the household free to spend 10,000 pieces of gold each day. Why? Does that mean that you're rich? You're rich in what matters. You're rich in mind, in liberation. You see the people, they have so much money. And what is their goal in life? To get more. And to pass it on to their kids or whoever so that they can have a lot of money too. Really, is that the plan for our life? And does that give them joy? Or do they worry about somebody taking away their money? Followers of the way, don't let anyone just put their stamp of approval on your face. Don't say, I understand Zen. I understand the way. Spouting off like a waterfall. All that sort of thing is karma leading to hell. If you are a person who honestly wants to learn the way, don't go looking for the world's mistakes, but set about as fast as you can looking for the true and proper understanding. If you can acquire true and proper understanding that's clear and complete, then you can think about calling it quits. Followers of the way, You take the words that come out of the mouth of a bunch of old teachers to be a description of the true way. You think, this is the most wonderful teacher and friend. I have only the mind of a common mortal. I would never dare to try to fathom such venerableness. Oh, venerables. Can I touch your robe? Blind idiots. You go through life with this kind of an understanding, betraying your own two eyes, cringing and faltering like a donkey on an icy road, saying I'd never speak ill of such a good friend. I'd be afraid of making mouth karma. Followers of the way. The really good friend is someone who dares to speak ill of the Buddha, speak ill of the patriarchs, pass judgment on anyone in the world, throw away the Tripitaka, revile those little children, and in the midst of opposition and assent, search out for the real person. So for the past 12 years, though I've looked for this thing called karma, I've never found not even a particle the size of a mustard seed that we could call karma. Those masters who are as timid as a new bride are afraid that they might be expelled from the monastery or deprived their meal of rice, worrying and fretting. But from times past, the real teachers, wherever they went, were never listened to, were always driven out. That's how you know they're men of real worth. If everybody approves of you wherever you go, what use can you be? Hence the saying, let the lion give one roar and the brains of the little foxes will rip open. He was quite on a roll at this point. Followers of the way, here and there you hear it is said that there is a way to be practiced, a Dharma to become enlightened too. Will you tell me just what Dharma there is to be enlightened to? Will you tell me then just what Dharma there is to be enlightened to and the way there is to practice? In your present activities, what is it that you lack? What is it? What practice must you mend? But those little greenhorn monks don't understand this and immediately put faith in a bunch of wild fox spirits, letting them spout their ideas and tie people into knots, saying when principle and practice match one another and the proper precaution is taken with regards to the three types of karma, body, mouth, and mind, only then can you attain Buddhahood. People who go on like that are as plentiful as springtime showers. The man of old said, if you meet on the road a master of the way, whatever you do, don't ask him about the way. Therefore, if it is said, if the person practices the way will never proceed. Instead, 10,000 kinds of mistaken environments will vie, poking up their heads. But if the sword of wisdom comes to cut them all down, then even before the bright signs manifest themselves, the dark signs will become bright. Therefore, the man of old said, everyday mind, that is the way. Fellow believers, what are you looking for? This man of the way who depends on nothing, here before your eyes, now listening to the Dharma, his brightness shines clearly. He has never lacked anything. If you want to be no different than the Buddhas and the patriarchs, then learn to see in this way and never give in to doubt or questioning. When your mind moment to moment never differentiates, it may be called the living patriarch. If the mind differentiates, its nature and manifestations become separated from one another. But so long as they do not differentiate, nature and manifestations do not become separated. Someone asked, what do you mean by the true Buddha, true Dharma, and the true way? Would you be good enough to explain that to us? The master said, Buddha, this is the cleanness and the purity of mind. Dharma, this is the shining brightness of the mind. The way, this is the pure light that has never been obstructed anywhere. The three are in fact one. All are empty names with no true reality. By the way, I think we're almost done. I know we're going over time, sorry. The true and proper man of the way from moment to moment never permits any interruption in his mind. When the great teacher Bodhidharma came to the West, he simply was looking for a man who would not be misled by others. Later, the second patriarch encountered the Bodhidharma, and after hearing one word he understood, then for the first time he realized that up to then he had been engaged in useless activity and striving. My understanding today is no different than that from the patriarchs and the Buddhas. If you get it in the first phrase, you can be a teacher of the patriarchs and the Buddhas. If you get it in the second phrase, you can be a teacher of the humans and heavenly beings. If you get it in the third phrase, no one can help you. Someone asked, let me skip a little bit. I'll get to the very end. I'm going to miss a few things here, but there's some I want to touch on. Fellow believers, at this time, having found it impossible to refuse, I have been addressing you, putting forth a lot of trashy talk. That's his words, not mine. But make no mistake, in my view, there are in fact no great numbers of principles to be grasped. If you want to use this thing, use it. If you don't want to use it, then just let it be. Followers of the way, don't take the Buddha as some sort of ultimate goal. In my view, he's more like a hole in a privy. So a hole in a privy is like in the old days, they'd make a hole to go to the bathroom. Bodhisattvas and arhats are so much chains and locks for fettering people. Therefore, Manjushri grasped his sword, ready to kill Gautama. Angulimala, blade in hand, tried to do injury to Shakyamuni. Followers of the way, there is no Buddha to be gained. The three vehicles, the five natures, the teaching of the perfect and immediate enlightenment are all simply medicines to cure diseases of the moment. None have any true reality. Even if they had, they would still be mere shams, placards proclaiming superficial matters. So many words lined up, pronouncements. And I'll get to the end. Followers of the way, if you wish to be always in accord with the Dharma, never give way to doubt. Spread it out, and it fills the whole Dharma realm. Gather it up. It's tinier than a thread of hair. Brightness gleaming forth is never lacked anything. The eye doesn't see it, the ear doesn't hear it. What shall we call this thing? A man of old said, something about a thing and already say something about a thing and you're already off the mark. You'll just have to see it for yourselves. What other way is there? But there's no end to this talk. Each of you, do your best. Thank you for your trouble. So that's the end of that. I hope to have imparted to you the spirit of Chan and to show you where not to look for mind, just be in harmony with it in this present moment. Be neither for nor against. This is what he's talking about. Ekayana, single mind. It is just in this way. And it does not live in appearances. It brings forth appearances. So we'll finish there. Thank you for letting me do that. I know that was quite a long one, but I hope along the way you picked up Ling Chi's spirit. I tried to do my best to impart it to you so that you could try to listen to it and feel it as if you were listening to him. So thank you. Any questions?
I have one. It said so many times whenever he began the address, he always said followers of the way. And I'm curious, because sometimes he said like followers of Chan or followers of the way. Are those two synonymous? And does the way have anything to do with the Taoist like interpretation of what the way is? Is because he's speaking to people in China, did they adopt the way from the Taoist practice and then it became something else? I'm just curious what's meant by that.
Well, what happened with this actually, it was the way there was a signification of it, where we would just say the path. Here in China, then they had the Tao, but the Chan practitioners, the Buddhists, were very careful to not talk about it in the same context as the Taoist, where the Taoists would say, this is the way you must follow, you must do this, you must follow these moral principles and whatever. And when we talk about followers of the way here, it's just that one should be practicing correctly. This true and proper understanding is how we practice. So it's not necessarily set out in form of a kind of a moral manner of following. He was very clear about that. It's not in the morals, it's not in the religion. Don't look at this as a devotional practice. This is a practice of investigating mind. And so this is the way that he's referring to, rather than its Taoist interpretation of following a specific code of conduct that's there, whether it's a Taoist or Confucian, looking for the perfect man. It isn't in the same way. It is transcendent of the understanding of specific principles.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
Oh, hi, Gilbert. This is Michelle. I just want to apologize. I didn't mean to ask you a question earlier to cut off your lecture. I was going to wait for the end of the lecture, but just accidentally I hit send. So I want to be sorry for the impoliteness.
It's okay, because causes and conditions always come this way. No matter what, one adapts to whatever is there. Your question comes up, and it was meant to be presented precisely at the time. So that does not affect what's happening. If for some reason it would affect it, I would point that out. But it just, this is the way. You simply just go with the flow of everything that's there. So I just folded into the lecture, and it has no import, because I'm not necessarily going through specifically point by point at that point. But that's good. But thank you for your consideration. Anything else?
There's a question that just came in from Wendy, who asks, so we lack nothing, we have the way now here.
Exactly. And this is something you just go back and reread Ling Chi, reread it until it finally clicks. One day it's going to click. Right now you understand in an intellectual way, but later on it will come to life. And that's what I tried to do with it tonight, was try to breathe life into it so that you could feel it. And the reason I did this was because everything Ling Chi said there incorporated all the principles of Chan up to that point, up to that classical period. Everything is there that we began right from the very first lecture. It's there, and he's laying it out in a way which Master Ling Chi, kind of a no-nonsense approach, and it is some approach in which I feel a kind of a connection to, in terms of how we do this. Ling Chi in some ways suffered no fools, and the same way with me is that I will present the Dharma the way I see it and try to elevate people's practice to meet that, rather than to talk down to you, or to, as one master said, give you another cup of slop. Rather than that, I want to really push you at one, understanding that there's a consequence to not practicing, but on the other hand, really showing you that this way is right here, right now, and that if we practice with this true and proper understanding, when we sit to meditate, our meditation will pay off. Without this true and proper understanding, if one's sitting on the cushion, honestly, they're wasting their time. I don't care, if you're going to teach beginners how to meditate and without right view, it's a waste of time. And obviously, there's a lot of people that aren't going to agree with me there. But then again, that's what Ling Chi said. If everybody always agrees with you, then what use are you? And that's why I believe, in terms of that, we really need to, before we sit on the cushion, we need to understand what we're doing on that cushion. We're not practicing our legs like Shifu would say. Did you come to the retreat to practice your legs? We're practicing. We're not thinking. We begin to practice how to contemplate. This is very, very important that we understand contemplation. Contemplation is not thinking. So you have to begin to practice contemplation. You can practice using direct contemplation outside, looking at something directly and just not having any thoughts about it, no notions, no nothing. So when you sit to meditate, all you're doing is doing the same thing with your method. If you're doing silent illumination, you're contemplating the present moment, a pinpoint of time. Then you're doing mind work. If you're not doing that, you're just like parking your car, in a garage while you go to the theater. And then when you come back, and during that time period, you may see a double bill of different images in your mind. And then you pick up your car and you leave. But what did you do? You didn't do anything. But when you sit to meditate and you're contemplating, you are engaged. But when I say you are, it is mind is engaged. Mind is directly engaged in the present moment. But because it is so incredible, that present moment has hundreds of thousands of images and thoughts and perceptions that are there. Some of them are in the environment themselves. Some eventually extend beyond the environment that one is able to perceive. We know that all of these perceptions, all of these things that we do, we contemplate via the senses. So we do not think about them, but they are not separate from mind. And the mind is capable of that. We do not know that. We cannot know that because we're a samsaric dream. We have a very limited range of sensitivity and of ability to understand things. Dogs hear better than us. They smell better. Well, not my dogs right now. They don't smell that good, but but when they're bathed, they can smell things from a mile away. And you see things much beyond that. We don't practice to get these extra, or what they call super mundane skills. They just come as a matter of course. But the reason I'm mentioning that to you is so that you understand this limited wavelength that the humans are in. They occupy this wavelength, and then there's animals and ghosts, hell dwellers, ashurlo, heaven dwellers. But even that, the wavelength is very, very narrow. They're not capable of perceiving things through mind's own perception that mind can see, which is unlimited. Why do you want to have this narrow wavelength? It's like going back into the 90s and trying to dial up, to get through to get onto the internet. And the mind is infinite and immediate access to all the information. We just have to let go of this body. We have to let go of the illusion, and then it will work. When we sit to meditate with this true and proper understanding, we will make progress. It's very, very clear, but you have to have it. And that's why Master Ling Chi kept hitting and hitting with that. Any other questions?
Yes, there was another one along the same lines you may wrote. Besides sweeping to practice Chan, what else can we do in our daily life?
Stay in the present moment. Don't pick and choose. Understand that everything that's appearing is appearing in mind. So we have right view. Our right view practice is not limited to us sitting on a cushion. When we get up off the cushion, we're no longer in a controlled environment. Now we put it to practice. And so we don't, we see things that they will change. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, have like a saying from being an attorney, because it's always up and down. Sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. And so you see this world like this, that it's unsatisfactory. But it's only unsatisfactory if you try to cling to it and hope that it never changes, which has to. By its very definition, it's going to change. And so when we see things in this way, then this is right view. So we apply right view to everything that we see. The easiest way to remember that is just say, this is appearing naturally. It's natural that this would happen. Oftentimes I will tell people, especially on the opposition, it's natural that your client would feel this way because of this and this and this. But if he thought about this, then this is this. And so then you begin to harmonize with the people around you by understanding the circumstances. So this is how you use it in your daily practice.
Eric, I saw you had your hand. You have to unmute. Eric, can you unmute yourself?
Unmute.
Ling Chi talks about, going helter skelter and seeking things. I would interpret this as attaching to thought. So because we attach to thought, sticky thoughts, we don't apprehend mind. And because we don't apprehend mind, we don't act with its nature, which is causing conditions. We're out of harmony.
Is that a question or a comment?
Well, is that an interpretation of Lynch? I'm trying to see. There's paticca samuppada, but doesn't that relate? Fruition comes to through apprehending mind, and we don't apprehend mind because of sticky thoughts. We attach to thoughts.
Well, I think therein lies your problem, is trying to apprehend mind. mind
No, that's
cannot be
an
grasped.
absence of, wait a minute, go, that's an absence of not attaching to thoughts. That's what meditation is breaking that down, attaching to thoughts.
It's not a matter of what whether we attach to the thought or not thought. When we're engaged, like right now, of course, I have a string of thoughts, but these thoughts are only to do whatever I'm going to do. But I do not think of them and say, "Oh, how clever this thought is," or "I'm really impressed with this thought," or have to. Go ahead.
It's just sticky. I mean, you let it go. I mean, you use thinking, but you don't attach to it. I mean, the reality is impermanent. You have to flow with it. If you start attaching to things and sticky thoughts, it's grasping or clinging.
You just simply follow the function. You follow whatever function you're in. So for
right.
right
That's
now,
that's not attaching to thoughts to do that, though. Right. Following function.
This is what we call Crucilla thoughts. Crucilla thoughts are non-sticky thoughts. They come up and they're useful for the moment, just as one would use a hoe in a garden. But once lunch comes around, there's no reason to take the hoe to the meal. So we just put it down. So as soon as its function has expired, then we set that down. And this is the way that we practice. We call that Crucilla thoughts, wholesome thoughts. So wholesome thoughts are thoughts that don't give rise to a stream of consciousness. So this stream of consciousness would be something that we would equate with our ego or personality that we are thinking, versus just being in the present moment. And it's Groundhog Day every single day. The only difference is that one is clear about what's happening. We're clear moment to moment to moment to moment. And we don't have to look at what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow, unless in this present moment it's necessary to plan for that.
We're on the same page. Okay. All right. That's just...
I would think so. Anything else?
Yes, there's a question from Michelle who says, how do we apply sweeping in meditation?
Was that sleeping or sweeping?
It says sweeping with the W.
Sweeping in meditation. In meditation, you don't have to use sweeping. When you meditate, all you have to do, there's no reason for you to sweep away anything. You just constantly return back to contemplating mind. You're investigating mind and you're in the present moment. So whatever's in the present moment is there. If an akusala, sticky type of thought arises in mind, the mind is aware of the nature of this thought is one that has nothing to do with the present moment. It could be that you need to get a project done at work. Well, you're not working on the project then. So this thought is illuminated by virtue of the wisdom that's present and seen as an akusala thought. We don't give it energy. We don't have to sweep it away. We simply don't give it energy and return back to the present moment and just keeping our mind on the present moment, just trying to make it sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper. And this is what we're doing, so that we're neither thinking of the past leaning that way or the future. We're just trying to keep like balancing on a pinpoint of time. That too is illusory, but it keeps us from clinging onto some thought. If the thought of work comes in, you don't give it any mind attention. By its own nature, it will wither and die because you're not giving it any kind of energy. The more that we pump up thoughts, the more they'll come. The more we try to sweep them away, the more they'll come. So we don't sweep them away. We just are aware, using our awareness of the mind, that this type of a thought has arisen. We don't have to give it any more thought than that. And the skill is in the contemplation rather than the cogitation of this arising thought. hopefully that is clear for you.
Oh yeah, it is. Thank you. And last time I asked a question and you mentioned to contemplate no self in meditation right away. That's not a beginning to do it. You should start from something else, right? So what I learned this week is, when I sitting in the cushion, and sometimes you just feel some, not an aching, but some weird feeling or some tingle, maybe sometimes in the back, sometimes in the west. It just kind of comes and then you feel weird. So I noticed that and I just kind of aware that. And then once you notice, you're aware, then it goes away. So it kind of just comes and goes, comes and goes away. So that kind of make you feel everything just kind of what we call a cause and condition. It just comes, it just goes away. And I didn't want it to come and I didn't want it to go away, but it just naturally happened.
Of course.
So what they lead to. Mm-hmm. So that's what I learned in different from before. So is that a right track when I sitting in the cushion?
Yeah, you just little by little spend less energy in being aware of those thoughts. Again, you don't sweep them away. It's very important not to sweep them away. But what we do is rather than try to understand them and cogitate about them, because there's still a thinking about them, you become more adept at just simply contemplating the present moment and just bringing the mind back to the present moment without giving any kind of an energy to that or even a label to it. So you don't label it, because the mind is very clever, and this illusory mind is very clever, and it will begin to engage in this kind of a thing, like a postman putting letters in different cubby holes. And then this is not called busy doing nothing. This is the mind being tricked and occupied by this kind of a practice, rather than we come directly back to the present moment with no thinking. Wu Nian, there's nothing there that we think about. We just simply are using the contemplation of mind. But here's the part that it confuses people, and that is that when we do this, don't think that it's mindless. It is not mindless. If you do this right, you don't end up in a devil's cave, a dark devil's cave. That's exactly where you should not be. Or in unified mind, where everything is beautiful because you are it and it is you and you're all together. Not that either. There is this fine tuning where you stay in the present moment, and mind will be there. Why? It's always there. Just like Ling Chi said, it's always there. So you have to fine tune yourself. Okay, keep trying to bring yourself to the present moment and use less mental energy to get you there. So then eventually you're just like this, just barely holding on to the method, just sitting, very relaxed, sublime. So you enter a sublime state. Sublime is not a state of a sentient being. Sublime state is just simply our original mind at rest. Not bad. Not bad. It has nothing to do. And even if a thought arises, it just is aware, but it doesn't have to allocate any kind of mind energy to it. It is there. By its own nature, it'll move away. We don't have to sweep it away. We don't have to look at it. The less energy we give to these thoughts, this is where you become adept in meditation. The less energy that you give to these, the more you're going to attune with the true nature of mind. Okay? It works. It just takes time and
Okay,
sincerity.
thank you.
Yes,
Keep
you're
trying.
welcome. Yeah, keep doing it. You'll get it. Honestly, just keep listening to what I'm saying and then incorporate in there. There's going to be a measure of consciousness and thinking about it, but little by little, kind of drop that off. Okay. Anything else? I know I kept you guys a long time. I hope you got a benefit from what I did. I just wanted to concentrate on one master, and so that you can see that if you read Huang Po, Da Hui, Bai Song, Matsu, they all say the same thing as Master Ling Chi. They say it in their way. I like Master Ling Chi because his approach is one very similar to what I use myself. And so that I identify with that. But equally, the other masters, their Dharma is outstanding as well. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to say, since this is the end of the 6 lecture series that you're doing, just to say thank you, and especially for all the teaching, all the education, and I think more than anything else, your spirit. So I just personally wanted to say that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's something that I hope that will inspire you all to follow this path. Some of you already, have your own groups, and I will support you and your groups, and it allows me to feel comfortable, that we're all on the right path in terms of this, and that you're picking this up, and little by little it becomes deeper and deeper, and the amount of effort one gives at some point then no longer is any effort whatsoever, because we just do it, whatever needs to be done, and we don't think about it. Okay. I'm going to have a class right after Christmas. I think it's a Sunday class. I believe it's the 27th, on how to meditate, especially at a retreat. That's a CMC group one. So hopefully somebody can link you all into that. So you're welcome to come to that one. And by then you've already opened up all your Christmas gifts and avoided coughing on people and people coughing on you, hopefully. And, you have some time to learn more about meditation. I always bring meditation into whatever I'm presenting, because I think it's important to tie it all together. But this one specifically will be how to get the most out of it. Okay. So I think that's about it then. If no one has any further questions, thank you all for coming. That it was kind of a quiet class because I was doing a lot of talking, but hopefully you got some benefit out of this. Okay. So join palms, bow. Amitofo. We will see you a little bit later on. Remember, I have a Monday night class too, so you're all welcome to join that one. I know quite a few of you are already in that class. So, but keep practicing. The more you practice, the easier it gets, and the easier it gets, the easier life gets. Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't find the Monday class anywhere online. How do I find it? Like, I don't, what the meeting, where is it?
Sue's here. Sue, do you have any suggestions?
Yeah, just give me a minute. Let me post it here.
Okay, she's going to post it right now. So kind of pull it up, because I want to know if you guys are having
Is it
trouble.
on Zoom?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm joining by phone because my computer crashed. So I can't see anything. Sorry.
So if you wanted to write down the email address or the website address of riversidechan.org, that should be able to get you all the information for the Monday night class.
Yeah,
But that class isn't available. That's not available on Zoom, is it though? For other people?
Sorry,
yeah.
Yes, it is.
Sorry, I went through the Riverside Chan website and I couldn't find it anywhere. Like what do I click on? I keep getting
Riverside Chan
lectures,
meditation.
but then they're like old previous lectures. I can't find like present lectures.
Can you
Well,
have you tried clicking
there's a
on
transcription lag. Okay.
you can click on the meetup icon on the Riverside Sean homepage. It says meetup group. If you click the meetup group, it has all of the dates and information for upcoming lectures, as well
Is there a Zoom connection there, or what? I'm asking about her.
yes. Let me see here. It is available if you click attend online and are registered with meetup.com. Otherwise, you cannot see the Zoom information. So you need to go to the meetup page from the Riverside Sean Meditation Group homepage, click the meetup icon, and then register with meetup.com, and then click attend on the event, and then it will show you the Zoom info. But the link is only
Okay,
visible.
thank you.
Can I?
Thank you.
Excuse me, you may, right? It is you may talking?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry.
Yes, it's May talking.
Can you write down this number? Zoom meeting ID is 482-965-178. 482-965-178. And the password 546025. Do you get it?
Can you repeat that?
Okay, meeting ID 482-965-178.
And the password?
Password 546025.
And the time it starts?
9:30 Eastern Time, New York time.
6:30 your time, Eric.
Yeah, that's I'm subtracting the 3 hours back. Okay, and that's every Monday?
Yes.
Yes, every Monday. And Jeremy, maybe you can pass that along to the people that are in your group in LA.
Absolutely.
And that would be helpful, and even to the non-Western ones.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And no, so we can get that too. So that would be good. Those classes, the classes that I teach on Monday night, if you listen to them for a year, you're going to be really well trained in Chan. It just takes a year. Some of the people have been there and they've been going for it, and they'll tell you there's some things I repeat, and then there's things that they thought that they knew it all, and all of a sudden there's something new to pick up. And same thing with me. And so it's something that we're all kind of on this learning and training journey together. And it's really something I think Jeremy just jumped in, and he can tell you it's a little bit deeper than what we're talking about here, but it's still something that people, no one's going to be buried in there. We have enough patience to, if you have questions, to answer the questions, but it's a challenge, and it's a good one. And the people who come, they really pick up quite a bit. And that now they're becoming teachers in their own right, which is fantastic. Okay, so please, if you have this, pass it on to the people that you know, so that we can really create a very strong Sangha and a very educated Sangha and well practiced. Okay. All right, I'll let you guys go. Thank you very much for listening in. We will see you the next time.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Take care.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you, Gilbert.
Thank you.
Okay. See, Amy Chen wanted to join the group.